Mom and Dad came in from Mississippi and Oklahoma. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Music has always been my life. Dad was a Creek Indian, his father was Creek. And if Dad was here now, I would just love to say, look, what we have discovered as far as the history of the Creeks and the history of the so-called family tree. Because he wanted to know more about the Indians, because that's what he was all about, and he didn't have any foundation to find that information. We have it now. I had no idea that my grandfather was riding with Jesse James, and he was robbing stagecoaches and everything else during those days. But my family would never let me know anything about the history of my grandfather. They thought it was taboo. The taboo was history. Let me know. I'm not going to be a bank robber or whatever. You know, it's history of music for me. I have my two sons, my ex-wife, my grandson, and all of the red clay that represents Oklahoma in my blood. Now, I have no idea where all of this came from, this so-called gift or this so-called magic, but it had to come from the days of the slaves singing these so-called spirituals. It has brought me to where I am now. When I listen to so-called singers singing in the fields like documentaries and what have you, and when they sing, it's magic. I mean, they're out there picking cotton or whatever, but they're saying something. They're humming. They're giving messages to each other in the field. It's priceless. Ever since I was about maybe 12 years old, lessons from an instructor by the name of Mr. Johnson, and he was nice enough to come by the resident for lessons. And the lessons at that time were only 50 cents per lesson. I have a couple of students, and the average is around $40 per hour, and that's still a pretty good rate. Right. One student that I have now, I'm very pleased with, because he's only 7 years old, but he's brilliant. And I gave him a very good rate. Matter of fact, a couple of times I'd ask the student, I said, who's teaching who? Because he's so far advanced. Mm-hmm. But he has a very keen intellect of imagination that I see that I had when I was a kid. Now, I'm really happy to say that my youngest grandson is only 14, but he is a spitting image of what I was doing when I was around 12, 13, 14. And his name is Miles Grayson also. He's in Oklahoma, very astute to his keyboard playing, and he has that, what we call the it thing that we see in entertainment. When someone is like playing or singing or playing a horn or a musician or even an athlete, whatever. But it's that it clause that you see that makes it say this is something that's worthwhile to work with. When I got into junior high school, I noticed that the kids were coming down the walkway singing certain songs that I've never heard before. So I asked some of the girls, where did you hear this music? And they said, it's on the radio. I said, the radio? So that was my introduction to what we call rhythm and blues. Melody that has a rhythm to it. It stuck with me. I left junior high school, went to high school and studied a little bit of art. But then all of a sudden it hit me that music was my mission. I became interested in singing in a couple of vocal groups, and we started making a few dollars on the weekends, singing and performing, what have you. I said, hey, this might be what I'm looking for. Then it happened one day I was playing, I went to a recording studio in my later days of high school, and I noticed they had a star by the name of Sam Cooke. I said, well, gosh, here I am in this little studio, and I'm with these stars. I'm a little old snotty-nosed high school student. And the musicians were busy trying to figure out what to do with a certain song. And I said, well, guys, what about this? All that was a rhythm pattern that the guitar player started playing and the keyboard player picked up, and it turned out to be the basic foundation of a song called Tennessee Waltz. So the Tennessee Waltz turned out to be and then they start saying, well, hey, this is going to work for you. So after they finished recording the Tennessee Waltz with Sam Cooke, they said, well, Miles, you're what we call the A&R man. And they all chipped in and gave me $20. Now, I'm a little snotty-nosed in high school, receiving $20 for just giving them a little idea such as that, and it became a recording. I said, well, gosh, I think I better just take an interest of being what that's all about. So then I went to college, studied music, became what we call an arranger. And I remember one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm writing music for the Stan Kenton Band. And my dad came into the kitchen where I was writing the music, and he said, son, what are you doing? I said, I'm writing music, blah, 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 blah. He says, well, what is that? How does this work? I said, well, the musicians play this, and I wrote the parts, and on a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, the big band does that sound. He says, that's interesting. He said, now, son, can I ask you a question? What are you planning on doing when you become a grown man in life? What are your interests are? So I said, well, Dad, I would like very much to be able to make a living in music, but I like to make $50,000 a year and be able to play golf whenever I feel like it. So the vision became a passion today, but the dad looked at me and said, well, play golf? I said, yeah, Dad, I want to play golf and be able to literally have time to do what I want to do with my precious time that I have in my life. Dad was very confused. And from that day on, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I became basically a musician or an arranger. And then I started writing music for certain records. I mean, in the 60s and the 70s, I made an enormous amount of music. Some of my records are collector's items. I then pursued to become a producer, which I am now. But I noticed that it was a gift, because even at the home life of Dad and Mom, we had a phonograph record player, and the sound went out on the speakers. Well, I would put my ear down to the vinyl and hear the music that was coming through the vinyl. I said, this is unusual, but that's how I would start listening. Now, Dad loved country music. So when I started realizing Dad loved country music, I started playing little country songs, and Dad started all of a sudden saying, hey, I like that. But my mission, I guess, in life was all about music, because I never had an interest of being a 9-to-5 man. And I remember my grandmother saying to me, literally, she said, son, whatever you do in life, don't work with your hands. Now, don't forget now, I'm about 17, 18 years old, not understanding, don't work with your hands. To this day, I've always tried to work with the mind. The mind is an incredible tool for an individual. You have no idea what the mind can do if you put your mind to it. So even at this day and age, I am actually doing more creatively and writing contemporary songs, etc., etc. And it's amazing, just on the principle of my mind. When I get to the keyboards, sometimes I'll sit down and practice, but sometimes I don't really like to practice, because while I'm practicing, I'll come up with an idea of a song of some sort, and I forget to practice. I'm busy writing a song. That has been my passion as a music publisher and as a writer. I enjoy the challenges of what is ahead of me, or rather than that's in the past. Because the past, sometimes folks will say, well, what have you done, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes I just don't remember. All the successful recordings I have, all of this or that, that's not important. It's what I do tomorrow. Or like the phone call came in yesterday morning confirming that Dionne Warwick is recording one of my tunes, which is a country tune. Fortunately, she's going country, because unfortunately, the sales are not pop for her right now, but country will work. So musically, I just have a certain gift or an ear for hooks. I can listen to a commercial on television and find it on the keyboard, and I'm writing a song behind one or two little licks. The inspiration, I guess, has been just basically doing what I really like, and And I would say the one person that I really enjoy listening to, but he doesn't know this, is my brother Leroy. He has a perfect pitch, perfect ear, etc., and he can sing. The Lord didn't give me a vocal, but he gave me an ear to work with.
I thought you sang in the doo-wop.
Whoa, gosh, man, now you're going way back. I had the doo-wop background, and in high school, oh, you couldn't talk to me in high school. Some of the ladies had to make an appointment to talk to me. And that opened up some of the doors because there again, after my Sam Cooke adventure, we became a recording artist with doo-wops, and I started making a few dollars. And the few dollars turned into an interest because on the weekends, I would go out and make my little so-called gigs with my doo-wops. The doo-wops became an obsession because I felt like, gosh, I'm somebody important. I think that was been my forte of my whole life, is feeling and having the confidence that I am somebody. I can recall the days when we had a recital between my two brothers and myself. One played the violin, which is Eugene, and then Leroy played the trumpet. And Mom said, okay, now it's your turn to play the piano. But whatever you do, do not play that boogie woogie. And I had the Bumblebee Boogie on my mind. I played my Bumblebee Boogie at my recital and ran out the front door because I knew my mom was coming after me. But to me, it's like music has to have a feeling. That's why I enjoy listening to gospel music, and above all, I enjoy listening to the spirituals from way back when, because they had a feeling and an energy. When I go to churches, if you don't step on it and give me a feeling of color, it doesn't keep my interest. I can recall being a musical ministry of music for a church for a number of years, and it turned out to be a success because I learned how to listen and hear. Whenever someone says they're coming to me and say they want to sing or whatever, first question I ask is, what church did you sing in or what religion? Because that gives me a foundation to know for sure if they've had some training. But coming out of the church, you learn how to sing, you learn how to play, and above all, you learn how to listen. Because inside the church, if you don't step on it and become what we call a great singer, the congregation's going to say, okay, that was fine, but we don't think we want Brother Brown or Sister George to sing again. You have to be able to step on it. For where we came and where we are now. And, you know, I look at the reality of music, and every time we kind of get into a certain genre, from the rock and roll to the R&B to the hip hop to the rap, they have a tendency to try and block us from where we're trying to go, or let's say we're smarter now as Black Americans or whatever. I'm just proud to be what I am. The fight is a mission. The mission is in Washington. The mission is politics. And unfortunately, it's all about money. Who has the most revenue to have the so-called politicians listen to our objectives? If I was able to speak one-on-one with the President of the United States, Barack Obama, It's on his desk, a ruling in regards to the Freeman Indians. Let us become citizens, not on paper, but reality. It's overdue. There is a lot of resources that we can actually accomplish and gain from getting our rights. It's not about the money. It's about what's right. And the president can acknowledge this, and with just a stroke of the pen,